You are living in France and you have a business here. It might be a micro-entrepreneur, auto-entrepreneur, entreprise individuelle, or a French incorporated business such as an EURL, SARL, SAS, SASU. In this video, I'm going to give you some homework. I'm going to give you 5 things that you want to keep an eye on, and the idea that you're going to be avoiding bad surprises or last-minute fix-it rush. And you want to be looking at those things time from June until December every year. So make sure you save this video and that you also book some time in your calendar towards the end of the year to keep track of the things I'm going to be sharing with you. The first homework is to check the VAT threshold. A lot of the Power Hour calls that I do from June until December relate to VAT. Expats having registered their business in France, like a micro-entrepreneur or an incorporated business, and about to go above the VAT threshold. Usually the questions tend to be, have I gone over the VAT threshold yet? Oops, I did. What do I need to change? How do I get my VAT number? Or what are the different VAT regimes and how do I choose it? So if that sounds familiar, what you want to do as your first homework, for a micro-entrepreneur, you want to add up your turnover so far this year, because we're talking about calendar year. Well, if you have an incorporated business, you're going to add up your turnover so far in this fiscal year. The VAT threshold are the same, whatever kind of business you went for. What are those VAT thresholds? If you are in your first year in business, the VAT threshold for services is 36,800 euros. For you, if you have more like a shop, e-commerce, buy-to-resell, the VAT threshold for your first year in business is 91,900 euros. From your second year in business, that VAT threshold is slightly higher. So this goes up to 39,100 euros for services, whether you're a consultant or whether you provide manual services. And if you're selling some products or e-commerce shops, your threshold from your second year in business or restaurant, food stores goes up to 101,000 euros. Now watch out, because any invoice from the first euro above this amount, you will need to update your invoices and make sure that you do have the references for the VAT. The second homework is specific to micro-entrepreneurs, and you want to check the turnover threshold. There are 2 super important rules that I keep repeating, which are very important if you want to remain as a micro-entrepreneur next year. The first rule is the maximum yearly turnover, and the second rule is the pro rata rule. So the first rule is the maximum turnover threshold that you can't go above if you want to remain as a micro-entrepreneur next year. And basically this threshold for services is 77,700 euros for services, so whether you're a coach, a programmer, community manager, providing conciergerie services. While if your activity is more like buy to resell, e-commerce, food store, restaurants, your maximum yearly turnover is 188,700 euros. I will add the micro-entrepreneur fact sheet link below the video. So if you want to have a recap of those turnover and the VAT threshold, you can download my micro-entrepreneur fact sheet. So this is the turnover you can't go above if you want to remain a micro-entrepreneur next year. And basically you can't even go for 1 euro. If you're 2 euros or 1 euro above, next year you will be switched. So make sure you do keep an eye on this turnover. Now the second rule I talked about is the pro rata rule, and this one is the toughest and most people don't even know about it. There is basically a pro rata rule for your first year in business, which means that, for instance, as I've just said, if you are providing some services activity and you registered your business on the 1st of Jan this year, your maximum turnover threshold is 77,700 euros this year. However, if you register anytime along this year, it's going to be a pro rata based on exactly the number of days that you've been in business. So if I take the example of someone registered as a coach on the 1st of Jan, the yearly turnover, maximum turnover not to go above is 77,700 euros. But if this same person registered the business on the 1st of July, then the maximum turnover this year, if they want to remain as a micro-entrepreneur, is 39,063 euros maximum. So there's a trick around this. I'm going to be sharing it with you. Don't share it. is basically, if you want to remain a micro entrepreneur, you're getting towards the end of the year, November, December time, and you see that if you send your next invoice, you're going to come out, and you think, well, that regime is really a good match for me, postpone your invoice until the 1st of Jan, because we're looking at the amount that is cashed in. So if you postpone that last invoice to the 1st of Jan next year, you're starting again with the new year and your turnover threshold is much higher. And let me recap as well to say that these rules apply for the first year in business, but from your second year in business, which for micro entrepreneur is based on the calendar year, so 1st of Jan to 31st of December, you can go way above that maximum turnover, yearly turnover, without having to come out for 2 consecutive years. So if this year I make 60,000, next year I make 100,000, and the year after 110,000, I will only come out the year after. Your next homework is to keep an eye on your taxe foncière. So this one is about personal taxes for property owners in France. September, October time is when we are receiving our housing taxes, which could be either taxe foncière if you are owning a property in France and you're living here. This is your main property. Résidence principale, so this is the taxe foncière, and taxe d'habitation is for anyone who might have a secondary home in France or for non-French residents with holiday homes in France. So for instance, if you're living in France and this is your main home, you are looking for your taxe foncière. If you are living in the US and you have a holiday home in Dordogne, you are looking for your taxe d'habitation. Finally, if you are living in France and you have a main home and you also have some other investments with other properties, then you're looking for the taxe foncière and taxe d'habitation. You will be getting those bills in September, and I've covered this topic in another YouTube video, and I'll add the link in the video description as well as at the end of this video. We are now back to the French business homework, and you will have to validate and pay your CFE tax. CFE tax stands for Contribution foncière des entreprises, and any business based in France has to pay that CFE tax from the second year in business, and we're talking about calendar year. So if you created your business this year, you will pay your first CFE tax next year. That CFE tax can be about anything from 150 to 600 euros. It's a tax payable to local authorities, and the amount is going to vary according to where you're based, the number of employees, or how big your business is. Be aware that this bill won't be sent by postal mail. It will be added onto your business ImpôtGouv account. Yes, that's the red one. It hasn't been sent by post for more than 2 years. Basically, they decided to stop this. So you will have to go onto your business ImpôtGouv account. If you file your French income tax this year, you will remember this website, which was the blue one. And if you go back on there, you will see on the right, you have the red section, which is the business section. Espace professionnel, that's the one that you want to use for your business. If you haven't created this account yet, no need to panic. You can go and do this because the CFE tax will be posted on there around October time. So here's the action that you need to take now. You need to go and create your business ImpôtGouv account if you haven't done it yet, and you will need your SIRET number to do this. And it will be a 2-step process. You will start by creating this account online, and then the tax office will send to you by post an activation code, usually within 2 weeks. When you get it, you go back onto that site and you finalize the creation of the account. And then note in your agenda that you'll have to go back in October time to check if the CFE bill has been posted. It's around October, November time. And then when it is posted, you have to go and check it, see what the amount is, and then validate the payment, meaning that you actually allow the tax office to take this tax from your business account on the 15th of December this year. If you want to know more about this or be reminded when it is, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter because I usually cover this subject every year. Your last bit of homework is to do a business health check. Now is this time to start adding your business numbers as well as start brainstorming what you want to be doing next year. Track your turnover, your expenses, and your projection for this year, and then list what your projects are for the next year in terms of time, sales, expenses, projection. Then ask yourself, does your current business type or regime still fit in? Is it time to change to something else? What would be the next option? And then look for reliable information, take some time to think about it and make a decision. Here is an idea of the questions that we go through with my customers when I do a business health check for a power hour. We go through their current business setup, we check that everything is in order, their invoices, admin routine, declaration, tax options. We talk about their future projects for next year. Then I'll share their options for the next year. It gives them time to think and plan the necessary changes for next year, and I'll introduce them to an English-speaking accountant if necessary. Now, we've seen the 5 things that you need to check before the end of this year, so make sure you save this video and then book some time to go through this little bit of homework. And if you want to know more about CFE, contribution foncière des entreprises, taxe foncière, and taxe d'habitation, which I've mentioned in this video, then I would suggest that you watch the next video.